Verstappen did not need a direct quote to understand the danger. Hamilton's sprint pole data said enough. Because when Hamilton snatched pole at Silverstone, Ferrari did not just jump to the front. Ferrari created the kind of performance question that every rival champion studies instantly. Was that one perfect lap, or the first sign of real sprint pace? And that is where the panic begins. Silverstone is not a track that hides weakness. It exposes drag. It exposes tire stress. It exposes high-speed stability. It exposes whether a car is truly balanced or just lucky for one run. So when Hamilton puts Ferrari on sprint pole there, Verstappen, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, and an entire grid have to look at the same brutal data point. Ferrari was fast when the circuit should have exposed them. That is the warning. Because if Hamilton's Ferrari only had one magic lap, rivals can attack. But if that pole data shows usable pace, if the car can repeat, defend, protect tires, and let Hamilton control clean air from the front, then this sprint becomes a completely different fight. The most dangerous question is no longer how Hamilton did it once. It is whether he can do it again. And if the answer is yes, Verstappen is not staring at a surprise anymore. He is staring at a Ferrari that may have just become impossible to ignore. Silverstone is where Hamilton's lap stopped being a surprise and became a warning. Because at some tracks, a driver can steal a pole and still leave rivals calm. The tires might have switched on at the perfect time. The wind might have helped. The track might have improved at the final moment. The car might have produced one lap. It could never repeat again. But Silverstone is not that kind of place. Silverstone makes performance answer for itself. It asks if the car can stay calm when the corners are fast. It asks if the tires can survive when the load keeps building. It asks if the driver can trust the front end, trust the rear, and still carry enough speed onto the straights to finish the lap properly. That is why Hamilton's sprint pole data matters so much. Because it did not come from a circuit where Ferrari could hide behind one strength. It came from a circuit that usually exposes every weakness. And that is the first reason Verstappen would pay attention immediately. Not because the source gives a private Verstappen quote. It does not. Not because we have confirmed Red Bull telemetry. We do not. But because a driver like Verstappen knows what Silverstone demands. He knows when a lap is just a flash. And when a lap suggests the car underneath might be more serious than people expected. That is the uncomfortable part. Hamilton did not only take pole. He took pole at a track where the car has to connect the whole lap. Straight line speed is not enough by itself. Corner grip is not enough by itself. A car can be fast in one area and still lose a lap somewhere else. Silverstone demands a balance between everything: speed, stability, tire control, and trust. So when Ferrari appears at the front, every rival starts asking where the time came from. Was Hamilton gaining on the straights? Was the Ferrari better through the high-speed corners? Was the car giving him cleaner exits? Were the tires in the perfect window? Was this one lap of brilliance, or a sign that Ferrari has found a sprint setup that can actually repeat? That final question is what makes the whole grid nervous. Because one lap pace can be attacked. Repeatable pace can control. If Hamilton's lap was only a peak, Verstappen and the rest of the field can prepare to pressure him. They can wait for the tires to fade. They can force Ferrari to defend. They can test whether the car becomes nervous when the sprint stops being a single lap and becomes a fight. But if the Ferrari has usable pace, the entire strategy changes. Usable pace means Hamilton can defend without panic. It means he can protect the tires. It means he can choose where to push and where to save. It means he can make the car behind spend more energy just to stay close. And Hamilton with usable pace at Silverstone is not a normal problem. It is a race-shaping problem. Because starting from the front gives him clean air. The car ahead usually gets smoother airflow. That helps the car stay calmer. It can help the tires survive better. It lets the driver choose a pace instead of reacting to someone else's. The car behind lives in a different world. It has to deal with disturbed air. The front tires may lose bite. The car may slide a little more. The driver may have to push harder to keep the gap alive. And when a driver pushes harder at Silverstone, the tires can start paying the price quickly. That is where Hamilton can build the trap. The rival pushes to stay close. The tires slide. The exit gets worse. The Ferrari pulls away down the straight. The rival pushes harder next lap. The tires suffer again. That loop is quiet but brutal. It does not need a dramatic mistake. It does not need a collision. It does not need a huge lockup. It can happen slowly, over a handful of laps, until the car behind realizes the attack has become too expensive. That is why Verstappen would study the pole data differently from a casual fan. A casual fan sees first place. A rival champion sees race shape. He sees whether Hamilton might be able to control the opening phase. He sees whether Ferrari might have enough straight line protection. He sees whether the car could make overtaking difficult. He sees whether the chasing driver might have to risk more than expected just to create a chance. And this is where the sprint format makes everything sharper. In a full Grand Prix, there is time. Strategy can develop. Tire phases can change. Pit stops can reset the fight. A driver can wait, save, attack later, and still recover. But a sprint gives far less room. If Hamilton controls the first laps, the race can start closing fast. If the rivals spend too much tire early, they may not get it back. If they hesitate while trying to understand Ferrari's pace, the chance may disappear. So Verstappen, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, and everyone behind have to make a decision before they know the full truth. Do they treat Ferrari as fragile and attack? Or do they treat Ferrari as real and protect their own race? That is a dangerous choice. Attack too early, and Hamilton may let them burn the tires. Wait too long, and Hamilton may turn pole into rhythm, push through dirty air, and the car behind may start sliding. Back off to save the tires, and Ferrari may settle into control. There is no easy answer. That is what Hamilton's pole created. Not just a headline, a dilemma. And dilemmas are where Formula One races begin to break open. Because every team wants certainty. They want to know whether the car ahead is vulnerable. They want to know whether the pace will fade. They want to know whether the tires can survive. They want to know whether the driver in front is managing or using everything. Hamilton makes that hard. He can lead while looking calm. He can save while still appearing quick. He can make the gap feel attackable, but never quite available. He can force the driver behind to keep believing the move is coming, even while the cost of chasing keeps rising. That is why this first block matters. The data did not have to show something illegal. It did not have to reveal a secret. It did not have to include a dramatic quote from Verstappen. The data only had to show Hamilton at the front at Silverstone in a Ferrari that looked strong enough to make every rival question the race they thought they were about to run. And for Verstappen, that is the warning. If Hamilton's pole was a flash, the sprint will expose Ferrari. But if the pole was the first sign of real pace, then the fight is no longer about catching Hamilton once. It is about stopping him before he turns the entire sprint into a race everyone else has to chase. The second layer is where Verstappen's concern would stop being about Hamilton's pole and start being about what that pole could become. Because one fast lap can be beaten. A controlled sprint is much harder to break. That is the difference every rival will be trying to understand after Silverstone sprint qualifying. Hamilton had already shown Ferrari could reach the front, but the real fear was whether the car could stay there. Not for one lap, not for one perfect moment, but long enough to turn the sprint into a race shaped by Ferrari. And that is where Verstappen would know the danger immediately. A pole sitter with weak race pace is vulnerable. A pole sitter with real sprint pace becomes a problem. Especially when that pole sitter is Hamilton. Because Hamilton does not need chaos to win from the front. He does not need to fight every corner, like it is the last corner of the race. He can do something more dangerous. He can control the rhythm. He can make the sprint feel narrow. He can force the car behind to spend more tire life, more battery, more patience, and more emotional energy just to stay within reach. That is what the data threatens to reveal. Not only that Ferrari was fast once, that Ferrari may have given Hamilton the kind of pace he can manage. And managed pace is one of the hardest things to attack. The chasing driver sees a Ferrari ahead. The gap is not huge. The chance feels alive. So he pushes through the fast corners, trying to stay close before the straight opens. But Silverstone punishes that kind of chase. The air behind another car is Messier. The front tires can lose grip. The car can slide just a little more. And when it slides, the tires heat up. When the tires heat up, the exit gets worse. Then the straight comes. Ferrari stretches away just enough. The move dies before the braking zone. And Verstappen would understand that feeling better than almost anyone because he has used the same weapon himself. Control from the front does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks almost boring from the outside. A small gap, a clean exit, a lap time that stays steady, a rival who gets close enough to believe, but never close enough to attack. That is not boring. That is domination in disguise. And if Hamilton can do that in the sprint, then Ferrari's pole stops being a surprise and becomes a warning sign for every team behind. Because the sprint format leaves very little room for correction. In a full Grand Prix, a rival can sometimes wait. Tire strategy can change the picture. Pit stops can create a second chance. A safety car can reset everything. But in a sprint, the race is compressed. There are fewer laps, fewer openings, fewer ways to recover if the first plan is wrong. That makes the opening phase critical. If Verstappen, Mercedes, McLaren, or anyone else wants to stop Hamilton, they cannot spend too long studying Ferrari. They may have to attack before the full answer is clear, but that creates a trap. Attack early and risk burning the tires. Wait and risk letting Hamilton settle into rhythm. Pressure through dirty air and risk losing the front end. Protect the car and risk watching the Ferrari become unreachable. Every option carries a cost. That is why Hamilton's sprint pole data would matter so much to a rival like Verstappen. He would not be asking only, can I pass him? He would be asking, when is the last realistic moment to pass him? That question is brutal, because if Ferrari has true sprint pace, the last realistic moment might arrive early. The first lap, the first few corners. The first time the chasing car gets close enough before Hamilton can warm the tires, build rhythm, and settle into clean air. Once that rhythm begins, the sprint changes shape. Hamilton starts choosing the pace. Ferrari starts protecting the tires. The chasing cars start reacting. And a reacting car is usually a car under pressure. This is where Verstappen's mindset becomes important. He is not the kind of driver who waits politely if he smells weakness. If the Ferrari looks fragile, he would want to test it. He would want to force Hamilton to defend. He would want to make the red car use its tires, use its battery, use its advantage before it can become comfortable. But if the Ferrari looks strong, the calculation becomes more dangerous. Because attacking a strong leader at Silverstone can damage your own race. That is the painful part. A driver may push through the fast corners to stay close, but every slide costs tire life. A driver may use more energy to pressure the leader, but if the move does not happen, that energy is gone. A driver may take more risk into a corner, but if the car does not rotate cleanly, the exit is ruined.